morning, everyone. This is Carrie Sparks with Pioneer Title, your Arizona title gal. I can be reached at 602-715-5704. Every Tuesday, I am here with Brian Reeves from Barrett Financial, and we talk about Ask the Underwriter questions. And I'm really excited for today because I think the topic we're going to go over is very timely. Brian, can you introduce and give your contact information?
Yes, it's Brian Reeve with Barrett Financial. My contact number is 602-741-4801, and my NMLS license number is 694300.
What do you have your email address, or not email, but your website also?
Yes, it's www.bkreeve.com.
Hey, before we went live on Facebook today, we kind of had just a funny laugh, haha, about energy and stuff right now. And you decided to give up a habit. And I was kind of reminiscing about something that is a memory tied to that from way back. And I listen to a lot of Tony Robbins, and he always talks about how the memories that you have are tied to something emotional. And I was talking about a time in my life when I was just a little girl growing up in Minnesota. And my grandfather used to have a spittoon. It was a thing back then. And talking about bad habits, but one day he decided that it would be really cute to maybe put some chew in a little girl's mouth. I guess I always remember that. Was it a sign of love or what was that? But you gave up a habit also. And so it's just, we always want to create emotional ties to things or that are positive. I loved him to death. So anyways, I do have some exciting stuff coming up in a couple of weeks that will be live on Facebook. One of them is a business planning as it relates to social selling that's going to be with a gentleman by the name of Steve Black. Steve is out of, I believe he is out of Florida, and he did a phenomenal presentation last week with Women's Council of Realtors out of Tucson. And so I've arranged for him to come on Facebook with me on July 14th at 1 o'clock Arizona time. And it should be a really, really good 1 hour seminar. So just 1 hour of your time, but he goes over everything that a realtor, loan officer, or title person should be involved in as it relates to social media and focus right now. But yesterday, when we were kind of getting prepared for what we're going to talk about on Ask the Underwriter today, I was kind of telling Brian some of the things that I'm hearing out of the field with the realtors that I work with about multiple offers coming in right now. And what I'm hearing is when it hits me, it truly seems like it's a pain point for my realtors. And that is the bidding wars that are happening, at least in the Phoenix metro area. And I hear that it's down in Tucson too. I almost would need to assume that it's all over the state of Arizona right now with so many people coming into the state out of California, many times with cash. And so what they're seeing is a rise in escalation clauses. And I wanted to have Brian talk about that today of how does an underwriter, how do lenders look at these escalation clauses? Can you talk to that a little bit, Brian?
Yes. So just like you kind of brought up, it's something that's being pushed a lot recently. For those of us that have been in the industry back in 05 and 06, prior to the housing meltdown, you remember you'd go out to these new home developments and they were on a lottery system. There'd be like 100 people that are waiting at the sales office for them to open and for them to come out and pull bingo balls to figure out who's going to get a lot that weekend, right? So escalation clauses used to be really, really big back in 04, 05, and 06. We're starting to see a return of them quite a bit. Especially now with the inventory being so low. And I've been using them with my realtor for probably the last year right now, or my realtors. So what is an escalation clause? An escalation clause is basically, it's written into the contract that you're willing to go over a certain dollar amount next to the highest bona fide offer up to a certain cap. So I'll give you an example, and it's kind of tricky on how you write it, how you do it, because these escalation clauses aren't meant for every customer. They're only meant for a certain type of customer. So for instance, if you have a customer, let's say, we'll just keep the math simple here. Let's say we have a house that is listed for $100,000. The house is listed for $100,000. Let's say the realtor goes through, pulls monsoon, pulls their comps. I'll go through and I'll pull Fannie Mae UCDPs, and we'll determine what do we think that this house is going to be worth. So we may come up with the determination that it may be worth $105,000. Well, what we can do at that point is we can put an offer in, even though they're asking for 100, we can go ahead and put an offer saying that we are willing to pay $500 over the best bona fide offer that they currently have, up to a cap of 105. So what will happen is if they get another offer in, it will put them at the top of that offer up until that cap is hit. So once it gets to 105, we're assuming and we're hoping that the house appraises out and the new sales price is 105. Now, if the customers are doing conventional 5% down, they're going to put down 5% of the 105. Now, question is what happens if we do an acceleration clause up to $105,000? And let's say the home only appraises out for $100,000. Well, if the home only appraises out for $100,000, what we do is we take the lesser of the two, the sales price or the appraised value. So if the home comes out at $100,000, technically, we're going to calculate the loan to value and their 5% contribution off the $100,000. So the customer will have to put 5% down of $100,000. So now it is $95,000 is what their loan amount will be. However, they did enter into a contract and it did go to 105. So that contract is still legally binding and they still are required to pay the $105,000, even though the value is $100,000. So the customer has to be prepared to pay that additional amount over the $100,000. So in this case, the customer wouldn't only pay $5,000 down. The customer would pay the deficit of the appraised value to the sales price. So they would pay basically $105,000. So now the customer is not coming in with $5,000. The customer is coming in with $10,000. But for all intents purposes, for us calculating loan to value, it is based off $100,000 and then their loan amount being $95,000. So right now we're seeing conventional 20% down, conventional 10% down. We're seeing cash offers that are going in and basically eating up most of the deals that we have out there. So we're even having some customers that are coming in with so much money from California, even though they're willing to put 20% down, they can say, we're willing to put 20% down with an escalation clause over what we know the house is even going to get appraised for. They're going in, they just want the house. So they're going in and they're creating a new like supply and demand, if you will. So even though the rest of the market's not there, they're willing to overpay once that house closes. Now it becomes a comp and it becomes true reality of what supply and demand or what those values are going to be set once that home closes, because active listings never help a customer in value. They only hurt a customer in value. It's closed loans and closed properties that actually set the real value, if you will. So when you have a conventional buyer coming in and putting 20% down, even if we know that the house isn't going to appraise out, if the customer is willing to pay over and above and beyond what that house is worth, they have that, they're entitled to do that.
That makes it really hard on the first-time home buyers out there.
It does. Like right now, it's very, very hard to get first-time home buyers definitely in FHAs and VAs even are accepted. I had a transaction over the weekend that I couldn't get locked in. This really strong buyer has the ability to put 20% down, even spoke to the listing agent, and the listing agent, even though they're a veteran, they have really good credit and they had 20% down. The crazy part is the strength of the customer was there, and the customer had the ability to do conventional 20% down. But when you compare those two loans side by side, a VA loan is better for the customer all day long. The rates are lower. They don't have mortgage insurance. They can do 100% financing. But the only way that we could get this customer in, even though we showed that they conventionally qualify at 20% down, was for them to go conventionally 20% down. So I have to put them in conventionally 20% down and then refinance them 6 months later into a VA loan so they can take advantage of their veteran benefits. This is how.
When should somebody call you to understand an escalation clause? Because I'm hearing, that there's a little bit of an education curve right now for some of the realtors starting to use these clauses. I mean, if somebody is in a hot market like this and is considering an escalation clause, when should they get a hold of you or anybody to learn more about it? Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, it has to be done in the original pre-qual.
So what I do is whatever that cap is, I will set the pre-qual at what that cap is. So if we go in and we're going to put an escalation clause, let's say like in my example, it's $100,000 is what they're asking. And we want to make sure that we're going to lock this deal down. They may say $110,000. So what I got to do is I have to do a pre-qual at $110,000 so that we know when that loan just goes over and over and over and it stacks up to $110,000. Once it hits $110,000, they still qualify for the loan because I'm basing it off the purchase price. The pre-qual is not tied to the value of the property or what we're assuming the value of the property is because we don't know that till an appraisal comes in. We can go and use our resources through Monsoon, or we can go and look, or I could pull Fannie Mae UCDPs, but on average, a loan officer or a lender doesn't do that. They just write a pre-qual up for what the customer will qualify for. So as long as I write a pre-qual up for what that escalation cap is, then we have a deal. Now, once the appraisal comes in, we need to understand that if the value comes in low, then we're going to have to recalculate the loan to value, and the customer may have to come in above and beyond what their minimum contribution is. But if they're a conventional buyer that's coming in with 20% down anyways, they may have a situation where like, okay, we have MI on our loan, but it's a very reduced MI because you only have to carry 12% coverage between 80 to 85% loan to value. So if we dip into that a little bit, the customer may pay a little bit of mortgage insurance, but they were able to secure it, or they may have enough money to put additional money down to pay that deficit between the appraised value and the sales price that they agreed on. Now,
some of these people coming in and they're with the escalation clauses and having, I think you said this a little bit, you touched on it, but they're coming in, they're getting the home, they're closing on it, and then they're going back and refinancing in a certain number of months into a different type of loan. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the refinance has to make sense. The customer that I gave the example of is because it is more beneficial for them to do 100% financing at a lower rate and definitely use their VA benefit. The only problem is in this case is I do it in the future, I'm not going to have them put additional or get them cash out to tap out that 20% down because the funding fee on a VA cash out is high. So that's not, it doesn't make sense for me to get them back their 20% down on a cash out refinance on a VA, but I can at least do a rate and term and get them back some of their money, get them a better interest rate, and they don't have mortgage insurance, even though they're putting 20% down. So it's frustrating from the lending side right now is because we see a lot of the supply and demand of real estate or agents dictating the financing for the customers, or they just can't get into the offer altogether. Even if we explain to them, look, they're strong customers, but financially a VA loan is better. And they're just, well, no, we only want to do conventional. The other thing that people are worried about too is, does an escalation clause only apply to conventional customers? And no, it doesn't. So we all know with FHA has an amendatory clause. And in this amendatory clause, it basically states that if the value comes in lesser than the appraised value, that the seller will drop the sales price down to the appraised value, right? Well, once that happens and the appraised value comes in low, it's kind of open to negotiation at that point. I mean, if the seller doesn't want to drop it, they don't have to. Now, for every FHA transaction moving forward, that value is going to be set for 6 months. But that value that's set for 6 months only affects other FHA offers. If they choose to switch it and go to a conventional buyer at that point, it's going to be a new appraisal. And they are only stuck to that value for 6 months if they accept another FHA appraisal or another FHA buyer, excuse me. Now, an FHA buyer can choose to pay over the appraised value of a home. They just have to acknowledge, even though they've signed the amendatory clause and everybody's signed the amendatory clause, they just have to acknowledge or put in writing, I realize that this home is being sold for more than what it's worth, and I'm willing to pay that money. So sometimes you have a customer that comes in with 3.5% down on an FHA and an escalation clause, you run the risk of that house coming in undervalued. And then you have to worry about, do they have enough money to pay that difference if it does come in undervalued?
I'm hearing from my realtors, like the example I used last week was there were 51 offers on a house that was over in Mesa with multiple escalation clauses on the offers. So the bidding wars are out there, they're happening. You know, when we kind of opened up, you know, last month in Arizona, people just went out and it's gone crazy all over the state for purchase. And we'll see what happens with the governor shutting it down again last night at 8 o'clock. I don't think it's going to stop. That's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing about all kinds of, you know, we're doing listing packages left and right for homes that are going to be going on the market in the next couple of weeks. So people are out there moving around and understanding whether you're a buyer or you're a realtor and you need more information on, you know, what is an escalation clause? How can it be used as leverage from the lending perspective so that they don't get themselves into a pinch? But can you give your contact information again? I mean, you're always a huge wealth of knowledge every Tuesday.
It's Brian Reed, Barrett Financial, phone number 602-741-4801, and MLS is 694300. And my website address is www.bkreeb.com. One thing that I've noticed, Carrie, in addition to the escalation clauses, and this just may be another strategy right now why inventory is really, really low. I've seen a lot of people looking into land home purchases and construction. That's another way to create inventory. A lot of times, even when we're going into the builders, some of them are only releasing 4 to 5 lots a month. But there are a lot of people out there that are starting to find custom, semi-custom home builders that if they find a lot, that they're willing to build on it, you know, and I have probably 6 or 7 transactions right now where I'm doing the permanent financing on them. And they're just couldn't get into a house because everybody right now is looking for a house that's turnkey. Well, even if you're able to find that house with as low as the inventory, if you're not paying cash for 20% down conventional, you have to come to the realization of, I have to settle on a house and I have to be able to go in and make repairs to bring this house back to where I want it to.
Well, maybe we need to do maybe next week on 203K loans and other rehab loans, because that's what I'm hearing too, is, you know, as much as I see it, you cringe at the 203K loans and stuff, the rehab stuff, but if you can find the location you want to be in, you can rehab the house up to what you want. And there's a whole, you know, episode of Ask the Underwriter behind that. But right. Brian, thank you so much for your time. I know it's end of the month and you're super busy. Again, this is Carrie Sparks with Pioneer Title. I can reach at 602-715-5704. If you do not have a current relationship with anyone at Pioneer Title, I'd love to be your contact for your sales and marketing needs. Put me to work. I'm never too busy to help you. I've really worked hard over the last 4 months to up my game as it comes to sales and marketing because it has changed. I don't think we're ever going to go back to the way that it was. So let me help you increase your value to your customers. And again, give me a call at 602-715-5704. And like I was mentioning to Brian before we went live, I'm going to be changing my database. Like most realtors and loan officers want to take a look at your database every once in a while. And really, if you'd like to be added to it, please let me know by giving me a message on Facebook. I'm happy to add you. I have agents from all over the state that are part of that database for classes and updates and whatnot. So have a really super great day. And to everyone in the industry, good luck on month end. It's been a crazy month again. So have a great one, Brian. Bye-bye.
Yeah.